Hi friends, welcome to Moms and Money, where we talk about managing money, making money, and saving money for the women in the household. And today, my friends, we are talking about an emergency fund. What an emergency fund is, what an emergency fund isn't, and how we can track them with these budgeting principles. In our budgeting basics, sort of like a playlist that I've been posting for the last 2 weeks, I've covered how to do your monthly budget or your budget by paycheck, which is the budget that you will use and update most of the time, an annual budget. We went over sinking funds, and if you want to watch any of these videos, you can tap this I right here to watch the playlist, and I suggest you watch those before we proceed with the emergency fund. Now, let's explain what an emergency fund is first. An emergency fund is basically funds or money that you save for emergencies. And I think what's important here is that we define what an emergency is, okay? What an emergency fund isn't is a fund that will help you pay for a want. Okay, so I think it's important that we define what an emergency is and what a want is in order to utilize this properly and to really save for it properly. Everybody's definition of emergency is different, okay? But what I will say is you don't want to dip into your emergency fund to pay your normal monthly bills, okay? That's just not going to work. It's kind of pointless. It makes your emergency fund pointless because if a true emergency arises, you won't have the funds to pay for it. So let's be clear on that. Now, do you need to use your emergency fund to purchase a vacation? Absolutely not. But maybe your dishwasher went on you and you need a brand new dishwasher, and so you have to use your emergency fund for that. Now, some people will argue, well, isn't a dishwasher a want? To some people it's a want, and to some people it's a need. Okay, or let's say your HVAC unit is wrong, something's wrong with it, and you need a technician to come out, and that's gonna be $500. Well, instead of pulling that $500 from your normal monthly budget or your budget by paycheck, you're going to pull that $500 from your emergency fund so that it doesn't mess up your normal cash flow, okay? Because I think that's really important for your budget to really work long term, is that you manage your cash flow. I think people get in trouble and they get discouraged when they don't learn how to properly manage your cash flow. And that comes with continuing to budget every month or by paycheck, okay? And to manage your sinking funds right, because if you manage that right, you won't really have to dip into this very often unless an emergency arises. Once you manage and tackle those and master those, your cash flow will start coming in. You'll be able to manage the way your cash flow comes in, regardless if you have an irregular income or if you're salaried, where you know what your income is every month. Once you learn how to manage your cash flow, budgeting will become a lot easier, okay? So that's pretty much what an emergency fund is and what an emergency fund isn't. So let me explain to you how to use my budgeting printable. Now, if you're curious, I have a full budgeting printable, which includes, I think, over 15 pages. It has a monthly budget, which I went over. It has an annual budget. I went over that. Sinking funds, emergency funds, savings trackers, all of that, okay? I also have a grocery budget and meal planner as well. As you know, we're on our grocery savings challenge for the month of January, but I'm really doing that all year because I really want to save more cash in order for us to reach our goals. And if you're interested in any of those printables, you could click the link in the description box, but you definitely don't need to have my printable to create an emergency fund. This is just a way for you to track your emergency fund and for you to save for your emergency fund. So similar to the sinking funds, it's the same layout. Actually, as you can see here, it's the same exact layout as the sinking funds tracker, which is what I went over in the previous video. So you would do the same thing, okay? You're gonna say what your goal is, maybe your goal in your emergency fund. Now, let me say this, Dave Ramsey recommends that you have 3 to 6 months worth of expenses in your emergency fund, because you never know at any time if you lose a source of income, or if someone loses a job, or something goes wrong in your house, or you have a medical emergency, God forbid, then you will have the funds here to pay for it, okay? That's what that That's why he recommends 3 to 6 months. Now, I recommend a little bit more than that because especially when you're a family and you have children, you just don't know at any point what can happen. And you want to make sure that your basic needs are taken care of. Okay. So I definitely recommend a little bit more than that. I have a full course that teaches people how to get out of debt and stay out of debt. And if you're interested in learning more about the courses that I offer, the link for that is in the description box. So let's talk about this. So let's say your goal for your emergency fund is $10,000. Okay. That can be the goal. That's what you want. I'm just making this number up. For a lot of people, it's more than that. For some people, it's less than that. There is no perfect number. You just have to assess what you need and your family needs or your household to decide what that number should be. In order to calculate 3 to 6 months worth of expenses or even more than that, you need to look at what well, this is where an annual budget comes in hand. If you have the data from last year, you can clearly see how much money in expenses that you pay or spend each month. But if you don't have that, just go by what you have so far in your budget by paycheck, however many paychecks that you have, and make an estimate for 3 to 6 months, multiply that by 3 or 6. You can look at your monthly budget, which makes it a little bit easier, and you can see what your total expenses are for each month and multiply that to get your figure. But it's really a comfort level and what you feel comfortable. Some people save a little bit, for a long time for their emergency fund in order to have a number in there that really makes you comfortable in case an emergency arises. So again, I'm just making up that $10,000. Essentially, you would put a date here. We're in January 2020. And the name, it's all for your emergency fund, but maybe you got an extra bonus or something that you want to put towards your emergency fund. Some people are able to save every month for your emergency fund, or maybe you're only able to save when you have some extra money in your budget. If we go back to our sample monthly budget, this family had an extra $900 remaining in their budget, okay, because of a pretend bonus and some overtime that they had. So you can really just put like bonus or overtime. And if you're starting from zero, or if you have a beginning balance, you would put that here. Here, this pretend family starting from zero, okay, and you're gonna put 900 in there, which makes your ending balance 900. This is fictional. Most people don't put $900 in their emergency fund off the bat, but you got to start somewhere. Okay. This is again, just a fictional family. So maybe after doing your monthly budget or your budget by paycheck, you have an extra $25. Well, I would suggest, my friend, either putting that $25 to your consumer debt to pay that off, or putting that $25 into some sort of sinking fund or emergency fund. Now, an emergency fund is a type of sinking fund. Okay, so let me just make that clear. An emergency fund is a type of sinking fund. So on your monthly budget, this section here for sinking funds that you want to save for, if you have an extra $25, you would just put emergency fund here, or EF, and you're going to put plus 25, and that's going to be, you would total that up as all of your actuals up to get the total amount that you're saving for your sinking funds. Okay, this is just a way for you to see where the money is coming from that is going to come up with this full $10,000. Okay, so one is a bonus, or just whatever's extra in your paycheck, or maybe you were gifted some cash and you just want to put it to your saving emergency fund. Then this is just a great way to see that. Okay, the more data that you put into these spreadsheets, the better it is for you when you go back and you're trying to remember what happened for the year. Because theoretically, and I'll be sharing a whole video on a budgeting binder, you would want to take all of these printables and put them in some sort of budgeting binder so you can flip through each month to see how far you've come. Okay, I think that's really important to do, to look back at your data, because it keeps the fire intense, okay, for you to be motivated to make better financial decisions. Okay, so any kind of detail that you can put here as how you are saving for your emergency fund is really, really helpful. Now, if and when the time comes where you need to actually use your emergency fund, maybe something came up with your car and all of a sudden you have to get, a new set of tires, okay, that wasn't being planned with another sinking fund. Now, for me personally, I have a sinking fund that is just for car maintenance. That would come out of that. But if you don't have that and the tires are a necessity for most people, then you would put on here, let's see, January Tires, that's gonna be like, I'm just guessing 200. That's under output. And so you have to take 200 out, which means your ending balance is 200 subtracted from the 900, which is 700. Okay, so you have your beginning balance, your input, that's money that you're putting in, the output, that's money that you're taking out, and whatever your ending balance is, because you know, life happens. This is what emergency funds are for. And I had to really talk myself through that when we had a few emergencies. Unfortunately, I had some deaths in our families and we had to travel last minute, and anytime that happens, that has to come out of our emergency fund, because that's not something that you plan, obviously. And so you need to have the funds to travel, so it would come out of your emergency fund. Now, Dave Ramsey recommends that you save 3 to 6 months of your emergency fund after you pay your consumer debt down. He recommends that you have $1,000 saved up for emergencies before you start paying your debt off, just for emergencies. But again, that amount can differ depending on your family. I go over that in my course, because $1,000 may not suffice for a family of 6, okay? But if you're a single person who lives by themselves and maybe you rent your home or rent an apartment, you can even probably get away with even less than $1,000. And you know, hopefully emergencies won't arise for you as much if you're just responsible for your own self. So you have to decide and define what's best for your family. But this is basically how you would use this sheet in the printables. In the notes section here, you can just any kind of reminder that you want to put down, or any words of encouragement, or maybe something happened with the tires and you need to save, remind yourself for next month, I need to save for more for car maintenance because there's something else going on with your car. Any kind of notes you can put down here. Now, this emergency fund tracker, it's the same thing as the savings fund tracker. It's just a fun way to like color, like, so if you put in $900, maybe you can color 9 blocks for 900. There's 93 boxes in here, so you can do it any way you want to, just for you to get to your $10,000 goal. Just be creative. You can color the boxes. You can put, you know, 100. I think I used different colors before to color. You can put like 100, 200, 300, and then 400. Or you can just mark it like this. I mean, there's so many ways you can do it. It's just a visual, fun thing to do. I know me, I'm a half paper, half Excel person. So like coloring something, it makes me excited. It makes me want to do it again. It's the little things sometimes that keep that pep in our step, because it's not always a fun thing to focus on your finances and trying to get out of debt. Sometimes it can be mentally draining, to be quite honest, because it is a mental game. You have to have that mental constraint to make those small time sacrifices in order to get those big financial gains in the future, which comes with living a consumer debt-free life. So that's basically how I would use these emergency fund and emergency fund tracker. Again, you can utilize these sheets any way you please. That will be better for your family. I'm open for suggestions. If you wanted a sheet added to this or something changed, I'm definitely open to that. Once you purchase these printables, you have lifetime access. So anytime I add to it or change something, I would send you an email and give you the latest update. It's important to know that, you know, if you really want to make 2020 the year that you really take control of your finances and get a grip of this, really try the paper and pen. For years, I always did Excel. I mean, I preached Excel and I still do. I love Excel, but I know not everyone has access to Excel, or some people just really like to use a pen and paper or a planner. Try a couple of different ways until you find the way that works best for you and your family. It does not have to be my way. It doesn't have to be my printables. It doesn't have to be in Excel. Any way you can do to track your spending and create a zero-based budget, that is moving forward. If Excel is your thing, you can download my free zero-based budget in the description box. It's a template that I still use to this day. We've been using it for, oh my goodness, probably since 2011. So we're going on 9 years now. I have 9 years of data that I can go back and look at. And it's encouraging to say the least. It makes you grateful to see how far you've come. So leave a comment down below and let me know, how do you track your emergency fund? Are you in the step yet to start saving for your emergency fund? Leave a comment down below and let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, you can tap my picture on the screen, and you can also check out my previous video right next to it, and all of my social media platforms all listed down below. Thank you guys again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.